Yes, a very warm welcome to today's talk, and it's Emmanuel here. I'm a medical clinician in my refugee hosting community in northern Uganda. Now, we have all known that throughout this year there has been a lot of statistics and data which has been coming from different sides, and this might not so be correct data, but it's either high or lower in the different percentages because of the so much suspicions and not doing things right in these current health systems, because most authorities who we haven't trusted are not telling the truth about some of the current prevailing health issues affecting the world in general. So we have seen all these matters are caused by some few factors which are really looks like things which we cannot arrest for now, but through some of the different health policies and some of the organizations which are really propelling all these causes are really not concerned, and that's why we as people around the world come to talk about these issues and to make the people aware about some of the current health issues which are really so much affecting the different parts of the world, regardless of where you are. The United States of America, there are so many data come from that side, Europe more so, and also some part of Africa, though I'm really so much concerned about Africa because there is really not so much data coming from Africa. From the previous videos I've been making, these are all data which is from the different parts of the world, but you might find Africa is so much affected also because this is something global, but here it's not so much talked of, but it's really so much important that we get to know all this as people around the world. Now, there has been data and statistics on autism spectrum disorder, and this data, as I've stated, there is a very high prevalence in autism spectrum disorder. Now, for people who don't know about autism, this is more so of a neurological and developmental disorder which more so affects children, and their perception of things, it lowers their cognitive strength and also thinking, developmental milestone not being reached easily because of so many factors and so many causes which we need to do so much research about. And people have talked about so many vaccines that have been introduced in this world. People have talked about the food we eat, because this is more of something which is genetically inherited, and also more so of exogenous factor, those are external factors which are affecting the cause or the rise in these cases like the autism. We have talked about a global surge in diabetes in more so children and adolescents. This has been reported so much in the United States. Now, the most appalling part of this is these cases have never been before in the previous years, in the early 1990s and also in the 2000s, but it has come to a very tremendous rise currently, which is so much worrying. That's why we really have to come to the roots of this, and we talk about it to see how we can educate the community, how we can educate the world to take precedence in their health and also take charge of the health of the whole world, because you find the organizations which governs and also sets the health policies in this world may not be so much concerned, or they may be so much compromised, because the current health system has gone into a very profit-making trend. The big pharmaceutical companies, the big food companies, and also companies producing pesticides, chemicals, which are fed into our soil, and it's really causing a lot of issues in the current health system, and the most bad part about is people really don't talk about it. I've liked the trend which the coming government of Trump is taking to take into consideration some of these issues, which we think we are giving it faith to see how very hopeful that it could create a bit of a change in this, and we shall all see how it happens. Now, the prevalence of autism spectrum disorder. This is a report from the CDC, and it is saying about 1 in 36 children have been identified with autism spectrum disorder, according to estimate from CDC's Autism and Developmental Disability Monitoring Network. So this is a very big number, 1 out of 36 children. So it's really so much worrying, because we consider the children as the future of our current generations and also the next generation. Now, if children grow up with so much developmental constraints and issues, neurological deficits, and also the reasoning, the cognitive strength is so much impaired because of things which we really introduce into these children, probably the food they eat, or some of the vaccines which they get into their bodies. It's really of so much concern. If you really love, you want a better world, it's really so much concerned, and you should too also get concerned about this. Now, autism is reported to occur in all races, ethics, and also socioeconomic groups. So that's why it's something which cuts across the world, regardless of the race, regardless of the tribe, regardless of the region where you are, regardless of any socio-economic situation where you are. It cuts across. That's why Africa, which is so much socio-economical compromise, it will also concern them, but you find it's not really so much talked of in these communities where we live, and it's really so much bad. So autism is nearly 4 times more common among boys than among girls. Now, this is so much contributed by the external factors, where boys are so much exposed to the current, because the males are really so much curious, and they tend to be so much submissive, and they take things in their hands, and that's why you find factors like this food, the bad food which these children eat, it's so much among the young boys. That is a very critical thing in which needs so much research, and we are going to get into the matters of this also to see how we can arrest all these concerns. Now, more on this report. About 1 in 6, that is about 17% children, and 3 to 17 years are diagnosed with developmental disability. So their cognitive strength is so much impaired. That's reported by the parents. Reported by the parents during a study period of 2009 to 2017. So this is a very big rise from 2009 to 2017, about a period of 8 years, which is a very massive increase in autism reported. And this must concern every parent around the world, because these causes of this rise, we are the one to take charge about it, because we are so much concerned about our children than the rest of the world, which is really so much encouraging to see how we can do all this. Then the identifying prevalence of autism spectrum disorder. Now, if you look at the surveillance here from 2020, you find the number of autism sites reported. They're about 11. Then this is about 1 in 36 children suffers from autism. Then when you go back 2 years back, that was 2018, you find it is 1 in 44. Then 2016, 1 in 54. Then 2014, 1 in 59. Then 2012, that is 1 in 69. So you see, there has been a consistent increase from about 2012, that is 1 in 69 children suffer from autism. But now when you come to 2020, that is about 8 years later, it is 1 in 36 children. That is about a 50% rise, which is really so much. But this data is not so much viewed externally. It could be, these are restricted data which can be really so much more than this, because I've talked about there's so much suspicion in the current health system of the world. A lot of data has been hidden from the main consumption sites, and people don't view it so much. And when you go back to 2000, the year 2000, it has been 1 in 150 children. So 1 children in 150 suffers from autism. That is in 2000, which is a very very small number. But I think 24 years later, it has gone to 1 in 36 children, from 150 to 36. That has been a very massive increase in the cases of autism in children. So this must really concern people, most of the parents, about what really causes all this, and also, are we concerned about doing something to see how we can get to the root cause of all this, and also take decisions which can impact positively to the health of our children. We have seen a lot of toxic foods which are really circulating so much in the markets. These reports have been shown in the United States of America. Foods are fast food, ultra processed foods, which are really so much colorful, and our children crave at least to have it daily. And this is a plan, something which is planned, and we have talked before about the big food companies making all this, where they have put profits ahead of the health of the children and also the general population in this world. The big pharmaceutical companies, drug companies, which are making drugs, chemical companies making pesticides, which also get into our soil. We grow crops and some food materials which are also in the meanwhile taken into our bodies. So there could be much more causes about these increases, which we really need to have so much talk about it. So we have had a lot of reports, and of recent President-elect Donald Trump has made a very rare press conference about these issues, and many questions have been asked to him, and I think we shall get some few clips and listen to what he has to say about the cases of the autism spectrum disorder in children, the massive increase, more so reported in the United States of America. But in this clip, you could find that I've said it before that it's really going to be a very big fight against these big companies. We have seen Robert F. Kennedy, who has been elected as in charge of the health system, and also the section for health and humanity in the United States. He has been fighting all this, but I've known it's going to be a very frictionless and a very tight fight to see that this one ends. But it's going to be a very huge fight, and if you listen to Trump closely, he is also so much in doubts. Also, he's not so direct on what to do, but I think we are so much hopeful, because when there's a way, always when there's a will, there's always a way of doing something. So let's listen to this clip, and we see how we can judge how things are going to be done. Then I'd love to take charge and also speak to the people in Africa, different people, that we should take charge about all these things, and we should talk about it to see how we can make changes to this. It's through the different health awarenesses that we talk about, which can create a big impact in this, and also get concerns over the different health policy making bodies, the different organizations. They must also get concerned. So let's watch the clip, and we shall end there for now.
Let me ask you about RFK Jr. He has obviously talked about his skepticism of vaccines. He's expressed opposition to childhood vaccines. Do you want to see childhood vaccines eliminated?
If they're dangerous for the children. Look.
So possibly?
When you look at some of the problems, when you look at what's going on with disease and sickness in our country, something's wrong.
Are you talking about autism?
Well, if you take a look at autism, you go back 25 years, autism was almost non-existent. It was, 1 out of 100,000. And now it's close to 1 out of 100.
Well,
I mean, what's happening? If they can find it. Now, I did something the other night that was a little unusual. At Mar-a-Lago, I called the drug companies, the top drug companies, and I called RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz and some of his people. And I said, let's all get together and let's figure out where we're going. Because we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to reduce prices, because the middleman makes more money than the drug companies, in all fairness to the drug companies. There's a middleman that nobody even knows who they are. And you look at our drug prices, they're much higher than the prices for the same medicine, for the same stuff. So we met, and we met for a long time, and we talked about pricing, and we talked about vaccines, in terms of what happens. We talked about pesticides, we talked about everything. And I think a lot of good things are going to come from him. And he's not going to upset any system. He's not going to upset the society. He's not looking to, to reinvent the wheel totally. But when you look at the numbers, we really don't have a very healthy country.
sir, going back 25 years, studies show that there is no link between vaccines and autism. Yet it sounds like you are open to the possibility of him looking at getting rid of them.
I think somebody has to find out. If you go back 25 years ago, you had very little autism. Now you have it. I mean,
well, they say because they're better at identifying it.
1 in 100,000, and now it's 1 in 100. That's a pretty bad number.
Childhood vaccines.
I mean, something is going on. I don't know if it's vaccines. Maybe it's chlorine in the water, right? People are looking at a lot of different things.
Childhood vaccines.
I want them to look at everything.
Everything. So childhood vaccines have prevented about 4 million deaths around the world every year.
I think that's great. I'm all for it. I think it's great. Hey, look, I'm not against vaccines. The polio vaccine is the greatest thing. If somebody told me get rid of the polio vaccine, they're going to have to work real hard to convince me. I think certain vaccines are incredible. But maybe some aren't. And if they aren't, we have to find out. But when you talk about autism, because it was brought up, and you look at the amount we have today versus 20 or 25 years ago, it's pretty scary.
Well, again, scientists say that's because they've gotten better at
I think we're gonna
identifying it, and
know,
there's
yeah.
no link in
but
studies.
the drug
so-
companies are going to be working with RFK Jr. and he's been an interesting guy to me. I've watched him for 25 years, and he's been an interesting guy.